Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Cheryl Carter, work doctor, and this is the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. I am so happy to have you guys here on this beautiful Monday morning, middle of May. Seems like we can't get rid of the rain here in Texas. I thought it was April showers make May flowers, but it seems like May showers make June flowers. So, but everything's been going great. I've been enjoying the world. I'm still getting some feedback, Ron, from your, yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Not a problem. I'll put on my headphones.
But as you can hear, we have my guest, Ron Patton. We'll be having a conversation today as I continue dialoguing about mental health awareness, pandemic recovery. And today we're talking about a subject that's very important. Again, I say that every show, but it is. We're talking about identity. Because as we begin to recover from the pandemic, the effects that happened with society, the last administration in the White House, race relations, financial upheaval, work upheaval, changing from being office environment and work to being more remote and at home work, and school changing for our children, how our children are socialized has changed. I mean, the list goes on and on. So we are collectively traumatized right now in this country, across the globe, actually. And when you mix in everything going across the globe, there's just a lot going on to interfere with the way we identify and how we socialize and how we are in community with one another. So let's talk about what identity is, and then I'll bring Ron on and we'll begin our conversation. That identity is about your personal characteristics. It's your interests, your skills. It's how you identify and how you move and have your being in the world. That's what identity is. And those characteristics include your race, your gender, your age, your sexual orientation, your physical attributes, your personality, your political affiliations, your religious beliefs, and your professional identities, like what you do for a living. And so many of us wrap our entire identity up in two things. And they're the things that if something happens to these two things, that's when we begin to experience a whole lot of trauma, depression, and that has to do with our physical attributes and our professional or career and work attributes, because all of those things feed into everything else. And those are the things that have been changed in our society so much that we're blending our gender orientation, we're blending the haves and the have-nots. Wealth in this country is disproportionately top-ended, and the middle class is blurred, almost disappearing. So having an ability to know who you are, know your own identity is major right now. And the reason why I brought Ron Pat on is just so you know, he is a Facebook personality that I have been friends with on Facebook for a long time. I've always admired his political satire, his commentary, his posts. It's mixed with a whole lot of awareness and in comedy. He is hilarious. I mean, just hilarious. I have cried laughing at some of his posts. But one thing I loved about him in his posts, even though he used humor, he was always teaching. And there was always a core principle for the questions he asked and what he posted. He's a thinker. So he's somebody that I believe this conversation about identity would be a good one. So, Ron, I know you're still diddling around with your camera, but
I actually, I'm looking at myself right now in my
I
phone.
don't
So
see you. It just says you're I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something on my end, but let me see. Um
there should be another, I guess, link with my camera phone.
uh no. It's
You
just
know,
yeah. It's something, it's just saying that,
oh, I'm sorry. I have to enter the studio on this one. Give me like
yes,
30 seconds.
click in
But
your
I hear you.
but while he's doing that, again, there you are. I see you now. There, I'm gonna remove this other one. There you are. Hi. Welcome to the Chief of Dr. C broadcast. Uh-oh. Now you're muted. Unmute. Okay. Now you're unmuted.
What about now?
Now I can hear you. Hi. Hello. Welcome to the Chief of Dr. C broadcast. How are you this fine Monday morning?
I am excellent.
Good, good. Well, did you get a chance to hear everything I said about identity and what it is according to, just definitions that are academic?
Yes, I
But
did.
basically, yeah. Yeah. So let's start out by first, let me ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you do it, and who you are.
Um, I do a few different things. I actually have a community-based organization called Participate, and we do everything from working with churches to feed um, homeless people, to clothe homeless people. We host community events where we work with um, certain organizations throughout the city that offer services to the community. Um, I'm a video editor. Um, I have a company called Street Team Studios, and we're working on the Righteous Man on the Internet podcast and a show called uh, Pretty for a Black Girl. And we can talk about that more regarding mental health because I learned a lot of stuff with this question I posed to women in their inbox, asking them to rate themselves from 1 to 10 overall.
Okay. And we immediately went to our physical attributes, didn't we?
Yeah, and that was really surprising to me because I really didn't know how much that impacted women. Like I knew it was a thing, but I was really shocked and surprised to see how many women tied their overall sense of self to their appearance.
Yeah. Well, and we had a little back and forth because it's something I refuse to do. Like, I'm part of a backlash, I guess, or an uprising in psychology that goes against personality testing and all of the things that we use to identify personality, physical attributes, everything like that, because they were developed by white males for white males or to help control white females. That's the basis of most psychology. So when I see things that try to get me to traditionally identify myself or get other people to traditionally identify themselves, I fight it because one, it is offensive.
I,
And just
I
yeah,
understand that.
yeah. It's offensive, but it's offensive to me personally simply because of the education and knowledge I have. But I know for women, because our value is ascribed to our physical attractiveness, um, that's why you kind of got that little bit of backlash or surprise, I guess.
Well,
Because
believe it or not, there was minimal backlash. Seriously, I have responses from droves of women,
uh,
but In regards um, to the any woman that felt like it was degrading, I was not asking you to rate yourself based on looks. I was literally asking, how do you feel about yourself as a woman? And some women understood, some women didn't. But to every woman, I explained the reason why. And real fast, the reason why is the show I told you about, Pretty for a Black Girl. It came about because a young woman that I'm working with, we had this conversation, and she rated herself a 6. And I think she's a beautiful woman inside and out. But she was always told she was pretty for a Black girl, which one is disrespecting the Black race as far as I'm concerned, because you're saying you're exceptional with your beauty because the rest of your race aren't as beautiful.
I agree.
And she said uh, there were Black men who used to tell her that, and some guys even told her that if they took her home, their mother wouldn't accept her. So this
Whoa.
started me. This is why I started asking women the question in regards to how do you rate yourself overall from 1 to 10 and why.
Right, right. And did you find and this is where I try to stay balanced,
Mm.
because my father raised me to believe I was beautiful and smart, and not just, my looks. He really emphasized being educated as a man. That, a man wants a woman who looks good, but he doesn't want a dummy either, or a
Yeah.
woman who can't cook and clean and do the things that, that can't raise children decent, all those things that I was taught. And then my mother, though, my grandmother, I come from um, my grandmother, one of 11 kids, and 10 of those were women. So I have nothing but strong women on my mother's side of the family, and then has strong males on my father's side of the family. And so I think I got a real balanced uh, look observation of the world from male and female perspective, but I don't see that balance in society. I see a huge push for women to really focus on how they look and being sexual as opposed to being smart. And if you're smart and financially successful or educated, you're actually put down now. It used to be you could be smart, but now if you're not like the Cardi B's of the world, and bless her heart, I have nothing but love for her. I believe she's using what she's got to enrich herself, but women were unbalanced. There's no balance between it's the extreme of focus on how you look.
Uh, Question. So,
Mhm.
um, do women have any responsibility for where we are now in regards to that? I say that because you mentioned the Cardi B. You have Megan Thee Stallion. You have Amber Rose with her slut walk. And there are some people who think that they're mixed messages. Matter of fact, Megan Thee Stallion was on Saturday Night Live, and she did her set. And during the set, she did this, um, you know, thing regarding George Floyd and, Black Lives Matter. And I know women that were they took issue with it because of the sexual nature of her show, and then put that as a part of the show. So for some people, it kind of sends a mixed message.
Absolutely. And we do have a responsibility for that, because what we fail to remember, and this is my opinion, we fail to remember that extremism sells, sex sells.
Yeah.
So you can't be what she was at the end of her show and be popular and sell records. You have to be that hypersexualized identity as a woman who sleeps around, does what she wants, shows all her body parts, can twerk with the best of, that's what's selling and making money. Being smart and politically active, because people forget Cardi B sat down with the president of the United States.
Yeah, but she only sat down with the president because of her popularity based on what she does.
Exactly. She has a platform.
Yeah, exactly. She has a platform.
And that's where I wanted to kind of focus. And that was a great question, by the way, is I believe you have to have a voice. Your identity is your voice. And that's where I think women are muting the totality or all of our voice for one conversation. And that's how we look and how sexual we are and how we can attract men and get men to marry us. That's that pick me attitude that's very unbalanced. And that's what I want to drive today, because I felt like your question when it was posed to me, and then our conversation back and forth was, I got the point that you were asking me to look at myself as a whole.
Yes.
And I immediately went to, he's asking me to rate how I look, until I read your question again. And I took your responses to me. And that was very interesting to me for myself, because I tried to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized at that time, I wasn't, because I had just come off of a post where some guy had rated me. And it was in another broadcast. I won't even mention his name. I don't like him. I haven't liked him, but I joined the group to see how Black men were dialoguing about women.
I already know what group that is.
We don't even have to. It's extremism.
Yes, it is.
He has no ability to do what he's doing. I have no idea how he got so popular. But
you don't?
Yeah.
It's okay. To me, it's the equivalent of a racist guy having a platform, and all of his followers, for the most part, are racist. And then you got other people who are on there trying to see what the racist people are saying.
Yeah. That was me.
So, first and foremost, as just people, as human beings, men need women and women need men. Take that and put that to the side. As a Black man, I think it's, and I don't care if you're with another race or whatever, but I think as a Black man, it's important that you help lift up your entire race. You know, the young boys, the young girls, the grown men, and the grown women. Because as a people, we still suffer in this country for a lot of different reasons. I mean, look at the political climate today. All of this is based on what this country was built on by a certain group of people wanting to stay in power by all means necessary.
Right.
You know, and it was never us.
Oh.
So I think as a Black man, I need to help my sisters, you know, and I think as Black women, they should try to help their brothers. You know, I'm a proponent of marriage. I think that when everything is right, it's one of the best relationships on the face of this planet. But when it's wrong, it could be one of the worst.
Hell, heaven or hell.
Yeah.
I agree, and absolutely agree. And I like to drill down to how we lift one another up, because you said something, you asked a question that I think is really important, that we all accept responsibility and accountability within our gender first,
Mm-hmm.
then our race second, and then within our identity in society, a profession, what we do, how we do it, um, as third. And I think one, the church has become so super spiritual and spooky spiritual that they can sometimes do a disservice getting people to focus only on their spiritual aspects. Now, I'm a woman of faith. I believe we are spiritual creatures having an earthly experience. But I also know if I'm in this earth suit, I have to contend with the world in this earth suit. And as a Black woman who was the only girl for a long time, I love my Black men, even if they don't love me black back. And I don't hate or think all men are worthless. I love my brothers, and I believe we have to call each other on our BS. Like women, I have an object. I mean, I have a responsibility to the Cardi B's and the Megan the Stallions and the, to look at the hers of the world. Look at how she's selling records and presenting her persona to the world. And why can't we be more balanced? Why can't we say that's not acceptable to be a hoe? To just, yeah.
It's a lot of different things that goes into what you just said.
Okay.
First, I think one of the main problems is I look at it like, there are only a few bad apples on a police force. Why that's BS to me, and it might be true that, it's a bad apple or two. But why that statement is BS is because as a policeman, your duty is to uphold the law.
Yeah.
And let's say it's one or two bad apples. The vast majority of this group does not hold those bad apples accountable. Yeah. They know they're out there. They know they're doing these things on the streets. They don't want to get involved because if they do, then they'll be blackballed. Like, I understand the game, but I'm the type of person that if I'm involved in something, I'm going to follow that to the letter because I'm that guy. Yeah. And I liken that to the whole man-woman situation, especially Black men and Black women who are arguing online. And I'm seeing some guys say some crazy stuff. I always call them out.
Yeah.
Because it hurts my brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think women should do the same thing because it hurts your brand. I don't have anything against Cardi B. I promise you I don't. However, I think as a society, we now allow adult material to be mainstream because it's on the radio. Back in the day, it was a specialty. You had to go dig out a Richard Pryor album.
Right.
The phones. If you got a phone with a data plan, you got porn on there.
Yeah.
You can go to YouTube and see and listen to WAP. And I know what what WAP stands for.
Yes, I do.
This is accessible to our youth. So when you have boys and girls who turn into teenagers, who turn into adults, who have been fed WAP and I'm gonna go get this money and I'm gonna shoot me somebody and all of that.
Yeah.
This is where we are as a society. And we need to fix that as a society.
Yeah. We've got to pull that up. And I agree with you so much. It's like we took the filters completely off. And the filthier and the more foul, the better. And I watched the performance on the Grammys of WAP. One, I was remembering with the time at the Super Bowl when,
Jackson.
Janet Jackson. And remember the upheaval and the world went nuts. And And now we're like, oh, she has a right to do that. And she was, for women, that was pro woman and hypersexualized women, and making sure we can express ourselves however we feel right a right to. But we all know we can't be like Cardi B in The Office.
Well, here's, I understand it from this aspect. So when we're talking about promiscuity, if a woman is promiscuous, she gets a label. She's a hoe and all that stuff. I get it. If a man's promiscuous, hey, he's the man.
He's
like
the man. Yeah.
We were recording last night and we were talking about this. Looking at somebody like James Bond. He wasn't married. He had a new broad every movie,
Every moment.
And I created this I don't want to call it a show. It's more like a segment within the show called The Elephant in the Room. And my question on one of them was, how do we go from Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show, whom I love that character.
Me too.
To Olivia Pope from Scandal, who was sleeping with not just the president, but he was a married man. well, yeah, all of that. So, and again, I'm not stomping on a woman's right to do what she want to do and all of that. But there is a difference between men and women. Case in point, I have heard women see a young boy and be like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, make sure you call me when you turn 18. And, and it's all like, I cannot go up to a little girl and be like, oh, she look good. Girl, you better call me when you get 18. I'm going to get put under the jailhouse because there's a difference.
There's a huge difference. And that's a great analogy. And one that, because I deal with people that have been abused sexually, and when I see hypersexualization and the attempt of women to be hypersexual, not understanding that's a dysfunction, not just because of how society looks at you, it's because women are wired to be with one man. We can only carry one man's baby. And men are not wired that way. Men can love and be with multiple women. Now, that's not the best for them society-wise, or it's not the best for them just because take care of that many women. But you can't do that. You can have 10 women pregnant at the same time.
I hear what you. Oh, yeah.
And be out there, and like you said, you the man. But for a woman, it's
she
not
only carry one man's baby at a time.
That's right. So that's nature telling you your natural disposition and wiring. And for women to want to be this promiscuous, sexually free woman, which promiscuity is not sexual freedom. And let's just put that on the table. I wish we would stop telling people you've got to be sexual and promiscuous to be free. That's dumb. That is not true. But my point is, for us as women, the pull to being that hypersexual and pulling us away from the Claire Huxtable from the 1950s, from that woman who had to have a husband, had to have children to be a valuable woman in society, to now you're more valuable, the bigger your butt is, the more you can shake it, and the more men you can sleep with, and trying to be like a man. It's a dysfunction.
Yeah. That I think the trying to be like a man is so just, But growing up, I had a crush on 2 women, and I'm not really the crushing type, but my first was Linda Carter. when I was little, I was in love with Wonder Woman. I just
I love Wonder Woman.
my second was Claire Huxtable because her beauty exceeded the physical. She was a strong, dominant woman. At the same time, she took care of her home. Like, that was such an incredible image for women as a whole.
It's powerful.
But yeah, and aside from Bill Cosby's issues, that was an incredible image for the Black family. Because if you think about all of the Black shows we had prior to that, you know, Good Times, A Struggling Family, who killed off the father from the show's perspective because they wanted to go more with Jimmy Walker and the buffoonery. The Jeffersons was not about the Black plight. It was one Black man that made it.
You know? Yeah, was living high on the hog.
Yeah, that one situation. So, you know, we didn't come up, and this younger generation doesn't understand. We didn't have those images. You know, we were always hustling, pimps, broke, trying to make it on welfare, from Claudine to Florida Evans. That's all we really had back then.
Yeah.
I was talking to some guys about how, because when I was young, I was a younger version of me now. I mean, I know everybody can say that, but you know, I was into social events. I was into the news. I was really interested. And I remember when Diane Carroll joined the cast of Dynasty. That was huge.
It was humongous, especially the way she joined the cast, because she was so devastatingly gorgeous and stood parallel to that main character that was the villainess on the show. Yeah. And I love Diane Carroll. She did so much for Black imagery on television that is not recognized, you know, from her first show. You know, powerful identity for Black women. Professional single mother raising her son, dating. I mean, all the social issues that show dealt with, in the interracial living situation, which was unheard of. And it was in the 60s, and people just don't understand how important that imagery was. That's where the Bill Cosbys and the Huxtables in that show. And now we have the Upshaws, which I don't know if you watched that show.
I watched the entire season.
Me too. And my thing, though, that I always have such a problem with on shows, and it's white shows, Black shows, doesn't matter, is the male character always has to be a screw up. And that's what bothers me about the Upshaws. It's like that main character, and I know they're trying to show us the identity of the Black male that's common, but his screwing up, like when he took her money in that show, I was like, bruh, you can't do that.
Well,
but yeah, that's the identity problem I have with the Upshaws. I love the show, love the actors, love the show itself is our first Black show since the Cosbys.
No, we were having this conversation last night. No, mixed, Blackish. That's a Black show.
Oh, Blackish, yes, that's right. You're absolutely right. I don't know why I didn't do Blackish.
But Jamie Foxx has a show. Because we were having this conversation and somebody was like, well, there aren't many Black shows. With the streaming platforms today, yeah, they're Black shows. But in regards to the Upshaws, I saw the trailers and I wasn't interested. But an actress on my page made a post saying that I think she said something like she was embarrassed at how bad the show was. So before I watched it, I did some research. And that show is produced by Wanda Sykes' company. So,
Right.
you know, it's written and produced and starring Black people. Thus, it is a Black show.
Right.
This isn't a case of white people telling Black people how Black people are. This is Black people.
Just doing Black people.
So, to have the discussion about the images and the portrayal of, you know, Black people. This is Black people doing Black people.
It's real. It's very real.
Real. The episode that you were talking about when he took her money. So here's the thing. You know, he's married. He has 3 kids with his wife, but he has
And his
a
ghetto
child.
friends.
You know, there was a situation in the marriage where he slept with somebody else and had a child, and the middle child of his wife and this love child, they're like a week apart
Yeah.
with their birthday. And there was an episode, I think an episode or 2 before the money episode, where there were 2 birthday parties.
Right. Right.
I just think that I personally, for my entertainment level, I think the writing isn't really all that great. It's like they come up with these situations and just kind of throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
Because you can do better writing in the same situations and it just not be so dumb. Like with the money situation, his wife is saving money to take this test to advance in her career.
Right.
He gets his wife a car that she needed to do her stuff. I get it. But it wasn't legit. The registration wasn't right. She hit somebody and he took $2,500. He took all her money that she was using to, you know, go to school and all of that and didn't tell her. And I was talking to my wife about it. And this is the relationship I have with my wife. Let's say I had to do something like that. I would tell my woman. She would be upset with me. And we would get past it. Here's why. What I have learned is that I would prefer for you to be mad at me for the truth than to find out a lie and then not trust me. Because once that trust is gone, it's a wrap.
That is so succinctly said. I cannot add anything to that because that was the issue I had, was the fact that he was comfortable disrespecting the marriage, the relationship, and her goals without telling her. And that is what I think, as far as identifying first Black people, second gender issues, all of it stems in a deep-seated mistrust and a lot of unhealed hurt. And a lot of people have their identity wrapped up in being bitter, mad, distrusting, unhealthy relationships, and then repeating that cycle, not realizing their accountability, not realizing the fact that you're dating the same person, just in a different body. And that's your responsibility to fix that, talking personally. And then as far as the mistrust with money and the issues, and always, you know, I got that Good Times feel from that episode of they're always struggling, you know, and that's always distasteful to me because that's the human state, but that's not good TV. That's not entertaining to watch all the time. Like every time it's a problem.
Well, there was something that he said in it that I think is true about society, and it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
When she threw him out the house and he came back the next morning and he made his special pancakes or whatever, and she was like, "You're supposed to be gone." His response to her was like, "This is what we do. We
Right.
fight.
It's our routine.
You get mad. Yeah, I come back and I make pancakes, and that's what we do." That's a toxic relationship.
It's
And
very
a lot of
toxic.
people have that relationship and don't understand that it's not healthy and it's not productive.
No. That's why we have early death rates, and why I think there's so much distrust and refusal to change the identity, refusal to change who you show up as. And the responsibility starts with you. If you're in a toxic situation, you can spend all your time blaming them, or you can spend your time figuring out this isn't working and I need to get out. Even if it's for a period of time. Now, I'm all for marriage like you. I'm pro marriage. I believe being married is the healthiest emotional, physical, financial, and societal state you can be in. It's just hard to be single.
Um, to each his own. Some people are built differently.
Yeah.
Like some people, who tell me they don't want kids. That's good. I would rather you know that than to have kids and be terrible at it. And that
Right.
was my problem.
Right.
But what I wanted to say in regards to what we were just talking about, my question to women in their inbox was, I think most women initially were taken aback and had to reread it because it sounded like to me, and some of them mentioned it, that some men would jump in their inbox, trying to have sex with them, sending them, pictures of their penis and,
Get them all the time.
and
All the time.
so I do understand every woman's reluctance of getting an inbox message from someone who they probably don't normally talk to, asking them what sounds like rate yourself. I totally get that.
Right.
The other part of it, though, is I explained what was going on.
Right.
And a few women said, "Hey, it took me about, 3 or 4 times to read your message to really understand."
Right.
One woman,
Provocative.
Hmm?
It was provocative.
one woman initially asked me if I followed that one individual, and I explained to her like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. And she was like, "Well, I think you do." And we started having this conversation. And that was the woman that actually attempted to expose me and posted the inbox messages to her page and my page. And it was funny. On her page, I don't think anybody even read the message. They just saw, "He's in my inbox." And a lot of women were like, "Oh, he's a clown," and this, that, and the other. And you know what I did? I responded to each one of them. "Why am I a clown? Did you read the message?" And they didn't respond.
Of course.
On my page, the women answered the question and they were feeling offended. Like, what did he do wrong? Because they were defending me.
Right.
And she was trying to explain that. First she said, "I didn't say hi." Are we really talking about saying hi? For whatever happened with her and other men had nothing to do with me. And that's true in life because a lot of us bring old baggage to a new relationship.
Yeah, we do. We all do. It is the human state. You show up, everything you've been and everything you are shows up in that relationship. We meet our representative first. That first layer of getting to know someone, you're typically putting your best foot forward and being your best self. But eventually, who you really are is going to bubble up. And that behavior, for her to do that way, is um, interesting behavior. I find people that do things like that, clout chasers, or trying to ride, like, okay, this will get me a lot of attention. Because if your issue was to resolve the communication that she thought you two were having, she would have dealt with you directly. And then took how you guys resolved that situation to her page. But to put it out there as if to get people on her side, that's clout chasing. I have people do stuff like that to me too.
Well, you know what was interesting? So people are following what I'm doing. And what I do every morning is I anonymously post a response. I did this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And those posts get limited comments and likes. That post got 500 comments with her exposing me, because we're in a society where we love drama. We don't want to heal. We don't want to see men and women conversing in a productive manner, apologizing, making each other feel better, being productive in any way. We want the tea. Yeah, we want to drag somebody.
Hot. Yeah. Dragging pipe hot the keyboard. And it's social media has turned into reality TV. That's what I look at it. We're all social broadcasters. We're all opinionated. We now can be somebody behind that keyboard that will get you socked in the jaw in person. You want to talk about dragging somebody on a keyboard, but and to your point, few people read. Few people want to be challenged intellectually. We want to be entertained. Because when you are challenged intellectually, you confront how you think, how you live, what you do, and it may not be the best. I mean, you get called out. People don't like that. That was her attempt to call you out, as if you were secretly trying to achieve something.
Well, she told me I was going to regret it. I said, make me regret it then. Like, this is what I do. Don't do this.
For asking a question on Facebook, you're gonna regret this. What did you do to her that was such an affront, so extreme? What's the question?
I asked a question in their inbox. That was, for some women, their inbox is a sacred thing, and don't come in the inbox. Like,
right.
Huh?
Yeah, I can get that.
Well, somebody said, ask the question on the wall. And I didn't want to, because the question involved the young woman I'm dealing with. And I'm explaining that situation. And a couple of things. One, it's not for everybody to see.
Right.
But the other thing was, some women been asking me to ask men the same. Well, no, they said, bring men into this. And I said, no, not right now. One, this is from my understanding of this situation, because I learned a lot. I did. The other part is, you're going to get some men that are going to start clowning. Oh, she ain't no 10. And like, you know how social media is. Yeah. And that's not what I wanted.
Good point. And there's like the possibility of maybe creating a group and then posing it as a group question and dealing with the situation off open Facebook. I do that from time to time when I'm dealing with situations that are pretty deep. Um, I tend not to deal and address sexuality questions like in this format, even though I have a sex therapist that I'm going to have a very provocative conversation with in one of my shows. I'm going to bring Dr. Canary back, and we're going to talk about vaginal health and the issues. And then I'm going to bring on, hopefully, I've got two other naturopathic doctors that I want to bring on that are going to talk about men and their testosterone levels being plummeting during the pandemic, which is making men have behavioral and emotional issues that is not being talked about. So I've got all those things coming up. But what I'm saying is, yes, you learned a lot. And I hope even my response was a teachable moment, just so you can understand how maybe somebody in psychology looks at something like rating oneself. And the fact that they want men to do that, men don't do that, because all men would rate themselves a 10. And I'll tell you why. Because y'all don't have the issues women have.
Well,
Us issue is being overly compensating yourself, whereas women, we undercompensate ourselves.
well,
Normal.
a couple of things. One, to be technical, of course we don't have the same issues you have. However, that's not to say we don't have issues, because we
Y'all
do.
got issues.
No,
Agreed.
we're human. We have issues. But my self-perception is not connected to my issues. My outlook on life, my self-worth, all of that has nothing to do with what's going on in the world. I can be sitting in a jail cell and I'm still a 10. I could be broke and I'm still a 10, because I have potential. You know, that's like, even though, you know, I'll be 50 in August. I have no plan to be a track star. But as long as I got legs, I can think about it. Now, if I'm a paraplegic, that's not an option for me.
Right.
I can't even think about it being an option. And if I did think about it, it would be illogical. So for me, no matter what it is, I got legs. You know, I can do that. I can be that. Even if I'm not that, I can still aspire to do that. And I believe in myself enough. And I have people around me who believe in me. So that pushes my rating up to a 10 for me, because that's the way I feel about myself.
Right. And you're capable of looking beyond emotions, and everything you just described is very logical, even though there were emotions mixed in it. And that's the thing that I like to teach. This is teachable. And the way the female brain and the male brain works, men process information from logic to emotion. And I love to teach women, stop saying men don't have emotions. You do. I personally believe men are deeply emotionally and more emotional than most women. It's just you show it differently. Whereas a woman processes information first through her emotions to her logic. So, and because emotions are so illogical and random and change frequently and all over the place, it really depends on how a woman is emotionally. When she gets a question like rate yourself as a whole,
I agree.
she's going to process it through her emotions and then sit with her logic and go, oh, he's asking me about more than how I look.
Well, also you have the woman who just got a penis pic before my question.
Yeah.
So you have a myriad of issues
Yeah.
that can cause a woman to not understand my question. And I
Right.
get that. But the thing about me, every one of the, I have roughly 5,000 people. You know, I'm at my limit on my personal page. And I say roughly because I lose about 20 people every day. Just
Yeah.
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But to every one of those women, and I got upwards of 80% of women on my page. So I probably have, you know, maybe, 3,500 women on my page. To every one of them that I've asked a question to anyone that talks to me, I responded to each one of them. And I've had some fantastic conversations with women in regards to not just how they feel about themselves, not how they see men and how they believe men think about women, but just society as a whole. This one dark-skinned woman, she rated herself a 10, and she gave her response in an audio recording. And she was telling me she was at this Black event and she loves to dance. So she's on the dance floor dancing. And every time the DJ saw a light-skinned woman on the dance floor, he would mention something about that. Like, oh, here come the sexy in the red dress. And like, he was only doing it for the light-skinned women. But what she said to me is she was raised in an environment where she was taught that she was beautiful. So although that was offensive, it didn't ruffle her feathers because she knows how society and some men are.
She was secure in herself.
Yes.
See, and that is a thing that we had a big uprising about dealing with your own self-esteem and building self-esteem and all of those things as far as trying to help improve our own self-identity. And those things are great, but to your point of her being secure in herself, her being at an event where she was physically doing something she loved to do that made her feel good, I think people don't feel real good right now. And that's one of the big things with identity that I taught several times, Ron, about the fact that a trauma response during trauma pandemic and societal changes and everything I talked about in the opening of the show is the body, the brain, the emotions. It instantly turns down the ability to feel, sense, and have pleasure. And that's a safety mechanism in the brain. It happens without your even being conscientious of it when you experience trauma. It's just how the body copes. And we have to consciously turn that back on. We have to consciously teach ourselves to experience pleasure again, to feel good again. That's part of your recovery. And that's something I think your question hit that spot for me because I had just gone through surgery. And yeah, of course, I had the customary inbox messages of guys, it's at least once a week. I got some guy sending me his member. Hey, you want this? It's really, it's epidemic right now because we're so much online. But I wasn't feeling the best about myself because I had also just had some surgery. So I was in recovery. I was in a little bit of pain. My hair wasn't combed, didn't have my makeup on. And then I see this question. I was like, rate myself. Plus, I think I told you I had been in that other group with that person. And some guy commented about I had on a 400-pound wig because he thinks this hair is a weave. Like as if, and I'm like, my hair's not even that long. But
there's a lot of men in that group that are there who I believe are bitter and
Yeah.
are miserable and just want to attack women out of their, namely black women, based on their misery.
Yeah. I agree. And it's sad. And again, I see collective trauma and a gathering of a group of collectively trauma filled men not experiencing any pleasure, not experiencing any good emotions. Right now, we're drawn towards the negative, we're drawn towards the offensive, like you said, the drama. And people don't realize you feed that. And then that part of you that feels good, senses pleasure, doesn't associate pleasure with sex. You know, there's so much more to pleasure. Pleasure isn't how great a piece of fruit tastes, or how good your water hits, or how good your workout was, you know, how good the sun feels on your skin, all those things that you got to experience again. So you feel good and you can act good and you feel good about yourself. And I challenge everybody, you know, listening. Most people listen to my show in a rebroadcast. It amazes me how many people listen to the show, both on YouTube and both Facebook Live. They go back and watch the rebroadcast. But I wanted to talk to you today, one, because of how your question impacted me. Two, because of how you answered my questions and your response and your compassion for, you understood how I responded, but you also thought this is a good way to start a conversation about identity.
Well, what out of everything that really made me feel great is that I saw how many women really trust me, because some women were getting super, super, super personal.
Mm.
And you know, it woo it was a lot for me to take in, because I'm looking at my screen like, ooh, that's a whole lot. But at the same time, they felt comfortable enough to trust somebody who, you know, I clown on Facebook and I do all
You do,
kind of
you're
stuff,
hilarious.
but they trusted me enough with their information that I wouldn't do what that woman tried to do to me.
Yeah, because you do have integrity in your posts, even though it can be provocative at times. It's definitely always hilarious. That's one of the reasons why I visit your page often, because you make me laugh.
Thank you, thank you,
But
thank
you
you.
also make me think. And I think you know, because we're rounding up to being way over my time, but this conversation is so important.
Well, look,
Uh,
I would love to come on again if you'll have me.
Absolutely. I think this conversation, and even we can invite more people. We can have a group dialogue.
I have people that'll come.
Okay. We can do that, and we can do that really soon, because as part of Mental Health Awareness Month and part of pandemic recovery, which I'm really pushing, um, I think dealing with your own identity and having interactive conversations, which my show is interactive. You can comment during the show. Yes, I've had to block people. Well, it's crazy stuff, but I like having this kind of a dialogue. And I would love to have you back. If somebody wanted to reach you and talk to you about all the things that you do, Ron, could you share with us how somebody might be able to reach out to you?
Um, I would say the best way is to reach me on Facebook, because I always have my Facebook page up.
Okay.
And you can search Ron Pat, RONPAT. And if you search Facebook under my old name, because it's still there, Communities Inland, it'll pop up too.
Okay.
You can check out my website, Participate Internet Campaign, and that's participate with an A. or you can also check out Street Team Studios Inc.com and see what we're doing there.
Okay. And I'm definitely going to put that in the chat box. And I encourage everybody to follow him on Facebook. You are sure to find not only entertainment, but things that'll make you think. And also, I again mentioned my appreciation for your integrity.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely have you back on because this conversation is so good and so important. And I appreciate you being here. We'll arrange for the next appearance and you can tell me who you would like to bring on. And let's continue this conversation about identity. And I thank everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the rebroadcast. Make sure you click like and share so that other people can enjoy this information. And also, most importantly, go to my website, Cheryl. It's dr-cheryl.com so that you can get updated on all the things that I'm doing, the app I have coming out, the online courses I have coming out. There's so much that I want to do for you, my listeners, my viewers, to help you during this pandemic to recover, but also just to help us all live a better quality of life. I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor. This is the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. I'll see you next Monday, 10 a.m. CST with your tea, your coffee, and Ron Pat. Thank you again, sir.
You're so welcome.
I'll be hollering next time.
Okay.
Bye.